"Behind that car," the girl said, jumping into the back seat of the taxi. "Are you playing spies?" the driver asked, smiling. "Yes, something like that," Kayla replied with a smile, though sadness lingered within her. She didn't want to have to keep tabs on her own boyfriend, especially the man who would soon be the father of her child, but his behavior left her with no other option. Mason had recently grown distant and quiet. It was evident that something was bothering him, but he was reluctant to share it with her. "Your boyfriend has parked at the flower stall." The taxi driver's voice snapped her back to reality. "Wow, he's carrying a whole bouquet," he exclaimed. Kayla's heart sank with resentment and pain. "So it's someone else," she thought bitterly. "You'll get what's coming to you." Gathering her composure, she calmly instructed the taxi driver to keep following Mason's car. In her head, Kayla ran through hundreds of scenarios, imagining how she would catch him cheating and confront him. But none of the scenarios she had imagined turned out to be true. Mason's SUV parked at the city cemetery. Anything but this, Kayla thought. She couldn't have imagined it. Her boyfriend took the flowers and walked toward a grave. It turned out she knew so little about the man with whom she had planned to spend her life. After slipping a few bills to the taxi driver, Kayla asked him to wait for her, which he readily agreed to, clearly intrigued by how this story would unfold. Mason walked up to the grave of a girl a little older than Kayla and laid down the flowers. After standing there for a while, he said something and turned to leave, almost without noticing Kayla. She cursed herself for what she was doing, but there was no other way out. She needed to know what the man she called her beloved was hiding from her. The SUV disappeared around the bend as Kayla and the taxi driver followed. "So he wasn't bringing flowers for a mistress?" asked the taxi driver, glancing at Kayla in the rear-view mirror. "It seems not," she agreed, still lost in her thoughts. She was even more surprised when her boyfriend's car pulled up to an orphanage, and after some time, a female teacher came out holding the hand of a girl around 5 years old. The little girl rushed to Mason, and he picked her up, twirling her around and kissing her, holding her close. Now Kayla's mind was racing. There was no mistress, but there was a little girl who, for some reason, lived in an orphanage. Who was she? And why had Mason never told her about her? And who was the woman at the cemetery? All these questions haunted Kayla. That evening, after meeting up with her boyfriend, she told him everything she had seen and admitted that she had been following him. Mason listened, lowering his head. After a pause, he said, "You know, maybe it's better this way. I've been meaning to tell you everything for a long time." He smiled sadly. "That girl in the cemetery is Joan. We met 6 years ago. I really liked her," Mason said, staring into the distance, as if reliving those memories. And then she disappeared. He looked at Kayla, making her feel uneasy. "I looked for her, called her, but it was no use. Her phone was off, and at the cafe where she worked, they only told me that her grandmother in some village had fallen seriously ill. Joan left everything behind and rushed to be with her. I never found out which village it was, and then I met you." Mason smiled. "I fell in love with you like a schoolboy. I didn't even know it was possible to love like that." At these words, tears started rolling down his face, and Kayla could tell he wasn't lying. He was being more open with her than ever before. "How was I supposed to know Joan didn't just run off to the village?" Mason said, his voice thick with emotion. "She didn't run off alone?" "Who with?" Kayla asked, astonished. "With the same girl you saw at the orphanage," Mason explained, staring at the floor. "Her name is Megan. She's my daughter. Can you imagine?" Mason let out a small laugh, his voice trembling. "I only recently found out about her, and my daughter has been living in an orphanage all this time. What happened to Joan? Why did she die?" Kayla asked softly, sitting next to him and placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "They told me she died during childbirth," Mason said, wiping his eyes, trying to hold back the tears. "I only recently learned the full story from Joan's friend. I had no idea. And now," he said, turning to Kayla, "you know everything, dear." He smiled bitterly. "I love you more than life itself, but I can't leave my daughter there. If you're ready to accept both of us, I'll be the happiest man alive." Kayla was stunned by the story. She could have expected anything but this. The fact that her boyfriend had a daughter in an orphanage was something not even her wildest imagination could have predicted. "You idiot," she said, ruffling his hair playfully. "I thought you had a mistress, but you were just afraid to tell me about the child." Smiling, she hugged him tightly. "How could I turn away a child when I'm about to become a mother myself?" Mason understood completely and embraced her in return, burying his face in her hair as he sought refuge from the troubles of the world. "How happy I am," he whispered in her ear. "You are my greatest blessing," he said, kissing the future mother of his children. Soon after, Mason and Kayla tied the knot and became parents to 2 children at once. Their first act was to bring Megan home from the orphanage, and shortly after, they welcomed their son Vanya. It seemed that happiness had settled into their lively, bustling family. Kayla embraced Megan as her own daughter, and in return, Megan reciprocated that love wholeheartedly. It's crucial to listen to and understand your loved ones. Had Kayla not been able to comprehend her boyfriend back then, they might never have built this life together. I'm really keen to know your thoughts on this story, so please don't hesitate to share your insights in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Feel free to share this video. Take good care of yourselves, and I'm excited to connect with you in our future videos.